Well, good morning, everyone, as you join. Happy Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right?
Wish it was Friday. Wish every day was Friday.
But then if it was, it wouldn't be as exciting, would it?
That's true. That's what they call retirement. That's not my future. Do a lot of the people who are part of the group here go to Inbound or watch it or whatever?
I would say probably a pretty good percentage are either, have been or are familiar with it or have been virtually now.
Yeah, makes sense.
Oh. Yeah, guys, the chat is open. If you want to go ahead and maybe say where you are, where you're from, a fun fact, what you are excited about, just open it up. Oh, Chicago. All right. Good morning. Hi, Sarah from the next room over. Jay's bringing the sunshine. And Jay just dropped his LinkedIn in the chat, and he always has some great thought leadership out there. So I'm also already connected with him. So always like seeing his posts.
Even if it's a lie, it's nice.
I'm on LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah, me too.
So
I to me, it's the last social network that really exists because everyone's nice. No one says hardly mean things. No one says anything, political or whatever.
yeah, for the most part.
For the most part, 95.
We're trying to keep it professional.
Yeah, the rest of the social networks they can keep it.
Yeah, it's true. And now, we've had a recent Twitter change, so.
Right. That's true.
All right, we will get going in just a minute. Just waiting for everybody to hop on. If anybody else wants to drop in the chat where you're tuning in from. All righty. Well, good morning, everyone. I will get us moving this morning. I am in High Point, North Carolina, and we have an adjoining hug, a great big giant group hug happening today from the Triad and Charlotte regions in North Carolina. So we're spread throughout the state, but also, we've got it looks like a lot of people joining from a lot of other places. So welcome, glad you're here. I know you guys are excited about the session this morning, and I won't drag it on too long. Probably if you registered for this session, you've either heard of Jay, from him, or about him. So I personally was introduced to him at Inbound, the HubSpot big conference a few years ago. Have always enjoyed his sessions, the liveliness, the great information that is always changing. So whether you've heard him speak before, it's going to be something new, which is great because words are always changing and I'm a words person. So that's exciting. And we're glad to welcome him here. I will let him kind of sprinkle in other things as he wishes throughout the session, but glad you guys are here and welcome, Jay. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm going to just try to share my screen because that's always the most exciting part of the adventure here. So let me do that. Let's share my screen. Let's make sure this all works. And okay. Oh, we did it. We're here. Hooray. All right. Thank you guys. Thanks everybody. I know it's hard to carve out at 9 a.m. in the morning time to talk about, all sorts of crazy email stuff. But hopefully we're going to get through a lot of information at the end of this thing. You might have some new ideas, some new tactics, some new things that you could literally take today and implement them. And that's really the goal. I'll give you a 30 seconds on who I am and where my information comes from, so you know where all these crazy stats are and whatnot. So my overall business is called Outcome Media. It used to be called World Data, went through a rebrand. So Outcome Media is an agency. We focus on direct response marketing, demand generation marketing. We do a lot in email. We do in direct mail. We do data improvement, database growth initiatives. We work with both business and consumer clients. We're about 110 people. We're based down here in South Florida. And we also have a division of our company called subjectline.com, which some of you may use that website. That's a free website, people to check their subject lines. A lot of people know about subjectline.com. Anyway, who cares about that? We have a lot of stats, a lot of information. We get it because we execute about 40,000 campaigns annually. We do that across all of our clients' platforms. So I don't own any data. I don't own any one platform. We work with HubSpot and Pardot and Marketo and Eloqua and Active Campaign and Constant Contact and 75 others. And we send out about 40,000 campaigns. And last year we did 6 billion emails sent. So we aggregate all that information, and that's where our data comes from. And what I try to do in these sessions, whether it's at Inbound or here or anywhere, is to share information of what we are seeing right now. I cannot stand when you go to any marketing session and they have a slide that's from like 2 years ago, right? Because the market, think about it now. 6 months ago, the planet was different, right? A year ago, forget it. I don't even know what planet we were living on. And I promise you, whatever we talk about today, 6 months from now, it's going to be different again. So if you're not constantly testing, evolving, changing, doing, you're really not doing email marketing. That's the way it goes. So I'm going to share with you right now is what's going on right now and things that you could test right now. And now a lot of what we're going to talk about is very small stuff, right? There's no silver bullet in email. There's no one thing that you're going to do that's going to be like, okay, I got it. Email works. We're fine. We don't have to think about email. It's lots of little things. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. We right now are all full of it. We don't trust each other. Nobody trusts each other. We don't trust what each other are saying. And we're seeing it in the world of email, and it's actually impacting open rates and performance and all of that. So there's a trust factor, and we're seeing it bleed into our marketing. Let me show you exactly what I mean. And it's okay. Okay, it's okay that we don't trust each other. We have to acknowledge how we're speaking to each other, because it's actually allowing our emails to get open. When I talk about open rates, right? So you send out 100,000 emails, you get 20,000 people to open it, you have a 20% open rate. All of my stats take into account the Apple iOS 15 change, right? The inflation of open rates. We've normalized all of our statistics. So when you see it here, you're not like, oh, that's because of Apple. No. We've normalized all that. It's all right. So I got all that out of the way. So let me show you what I mean. When Google sends out their email and the subject line says the truth about first-party data, right? They could have easily just said, the latest first-party data strategy. No, they say the truth about first-party data, right? And when I got this email the other day from Angie, right? The true cost of 15 remodeling projects, not the cost of 15 remodeling projects, the true cost, okay? If you go back to your inbox, and you're going to see this for everything that I talk about today, right? You're going to see your inbox with a whole new lens. Like, wait a minute, I didn't even realize that that's what's happening. But whether it's business to business emails or business to consumer emails, right? You're seeing things like the true cost. What's the real cost of corporate gifting? The real value of your customer data, and soon for real. TripAdvisor, real traveler point of view inside. Why are we saying this? Why do we have to say real? Why do we have to say true? True, truth, actual, real. Because we all feel like we're full of it, right? And because every email we send out is a superlative, right? Every time we get an email, it doesn't matter if it's a consumer or business email, the subject line is the biggest sale, the greatest whatever, the most important whatever. And you open it up and it's the same sale you had from a week ago, right? Same offer you had from 30 days ago, right? It's the greatest webinar you're ever going to go to. That's not true, right? So we all know that we're full of garbage, right? And so now in order to get people to really pay attention, we have to say things like, no, this is it. This one, I'm not just saying it. This is real. And when you say true, truth, actual, real, right now in the last 6 days, it's increasing open rates on the business side, 28%, on the consumer side, 21%. It's such a pathetic state of affairs, right? It's so sad that, you know, we're in a place where we just basically think we're all full of it. That's okay though. I mean, look, you talk to somebody on the street and they tell you something, you walk away like, yeah, that guy's full of it. Right? You just don't believe anybody, which is fine. Even Apple, in almost all the different Apple news that they send out, right? They're saying it, right? The truth about the Great Resignation, the surprising truth about whatever, the truth about night sweats. They're using the same tactic because the reality of it is we know it gets things open today. Maybe a year from now, we're all going to do a big kumbaya. We're all going to like each other and trust each other, but not today. I got this one yesterday. I got this email yesterday. I was like, this is ridiculous. And it says, the subject line, be honest. What do you think of the shift to personalized marketing? Be honest. Like it's just out of the gate. It's saying, dude, you're a liar. Okay, so now I want you to be honest. That's wild. I mean, that's like next level stuff, but that is where we're at. And as marketers, we have to leverage that emotion. We have to leverage the emotion that we are all feeling. And again, it's not like you sit there and you're like, oh, this one said the truth about whatever. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to open it. It's all about that millisecond. Every time you press send, right? Every time you press send, you're in a battle. You're in a battle. How am I going to get my email open and not the other person's email open? You know, so often we work with our clients, we work with a lot of big brands, right? And they're like, oh, okay, we've got it. We got the greatest offer. Oh, and we got the best creative. It's incredible. And guess what? Legal approved it. Yay, we got legal to approve it. We are ready to go. We're like, okay, great. And my team will be like, well, what's your subject line? And they'll be like, oh, hold on. Let's write that really quick. Blah, 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 blah. And they'll spend 34 seconds, not even, writing a subject line, when in reality, it's all backwards. Who cares what your offer is? Who cares what your creative looks like? Who cares what your landing page looks like? Who cares about anything if the email doesn't get open? So every time you hit send, you're saying, okay, what am I going to do to get my email open and not the other email that just went out at the exact same time? Another example is the word really. Okay, you're going to go back and be like, I can't believe how often I'm seeing these things in my inbox. You know, what mom really wants, which is terrible. And that's even weird that Wayfair wrote that. What mom really wants, what demand marketing really means. It's really ending. What do shoppers really want, right? Does Web3 really matter, right? Really is another word that basically says, hey, we're all full of garbage, right? But because this one really is the thing. And guess what? Really matters, right? Using really in your subject line lifts open rates right now 17 to 19%, right? These little things seem like nothing, but when we are rapidly scanning our subject lines, this is what's driving our decision whether we open something or don't open something. Another thing that's working really well right now is the fact that we basically, none of us know what we're talking about, ever, okay? We don't know, but we don't want to just, you can't walk into work and be like, you know, go into a meeting and, you know, you're talking about, you know, some new marketing automation stream and HubSpot updated their platform and you haven't been, you're really not up to date on it. You haven't been paying attention to it, whatever. And then you're in the middle of the meeting and you're basically sitting in that meeting like, I need to get up to date on this. I don't even know what everybody's talking about. I'm kind of clueless, right? And you're just hoping against hope that the meeting ends before you get exposed. We all feel that way about everything. Okay, nobody knows what they're talking about. Nobody's informed. Nobody's taking the time to read anything. It's terrible. Why do I say that? What is working in email marketing is the concept of 101, right? 101, what does that really mean? 101 means this is for newbies. This is for somebody who doesn't know. This is to introduce you to an idea. right? Now, the wonderful thing about email, it's very private. I get an email, right? If I get an email from Poppin, it says Poppin Spaces 101, how to get started. Oh, okay, our search engine journal, small business marketing 101, getting started. That's great, because I need to be doing small business marketing, and this is the 101. This is like going to get me up to speed, right? So using 101 in your subject line, you see here examples of both B2B and B2C. Using 101 in your subject line, you're basically saying to the person, listen, I got you. I got you. Okay. You're not going to sound like an idiot. You're not going to sound like, well, I'm going to bring you up to speed on what you need to know, what you should know. And, we love that. It's doing the homework for us. 101 in the last 90 days in the subject line increases open rates, 31% of the B2B side, 19% of the consumer side. These are such easy wins, right? These are such easy wins. For the majority of what we're talking about, whether it's truth, actual, really, 101, whatever, you're not even changing your offer. You don't have to change much, right? You don't have to change much. So that's an awesome win. Speaking of win, let's talk about your win back programs, all right? Amazing thing about email marketing, the thing that fascinates me about email marketing is we are all failures. Why do I say that? All right, we have a database. And how often do you really get an open rate that's legitimately over 50%? Like almost never, right? Who does, right? And so every campaign that you send out, you're failing. More people are not opening it than are opening it. You literally are failing every single time you send out a campaign. It's a phenomenal career path. It's like being a baseball player. If you get a hit 3 times out of 10, you bat 300, you go to the Hall of Fame. You're failing 7 out of 10 times. We are failing the majority of the time. So the majority of your database, unfortunately, is not engaged, right? They're not clicking. They're not opening. They're not, right? So if you have a database of 100,000 people, let's say on a good day, if you look at the last 12 months of your engagement, let's use last 18 months. Last 18 months of your engagement. How many people have opened and clicked in the last 18 months out of that 100,000? You probably have a solid, easily 50,000 people out of your 100,000 who have not opened and clicked in the last year, right? Those 50,000 people are not engaged. They are a boat anchor in your database, right? They are what's holding you back from staying in the inbox for a lot of your communications. And they take up like a massive portion of your mind share because you're like, these people signed up, these people bought, these people downloaded, these people attended, and now they are completely ignoring us. Okay, so what do we do about that? So everybody has a win back. Well, these are the 5 different types of emails for a win back, communicating, right, to that audience of people that basically are ignoring you. And let's go through each one really quick. I'm going to show you what works and what doesn't work, but these are it. These are the 5 really ways to win back people that are not engaged. The first one that goes out normally is the remember me, right? So, okay, you're like, okay, the person hasn't opened or clicked in however long, so we're going to do the remember me, which is a classic win back. It's the first one that always goes out, and it basically says, we miss you, right? Like, really, who cares? Now, if we look at the data, and we do this, like we have one from Adweek, another one from Mark and Graham, usually not incentivized, it's just straight up, we miss you, right? The open rate for the we miss you campaigns on average is 3% and 6% for non-engaged over 18 months. Now you're sitting there saying, oh, that's horrible, 3% and 6%, but it's really not. It's not, because these are people literally that open up your emails. So all of a sudden you get 6%. Okay, we're back in business with 6% of the people who are not engaged. That's a good thing. Okay, that's a good thing. So now we go on to step 2, the crazy incentive. Crazy incentive does pretty good, much better on consumer, right? Where you're saying, okay, not only do we miss you, but we're going to give you the kitchen sink, right? We're going to give you a massive thingamabob off. And the reason it's worthwhile doing the massive thingamabob off is because your cost to acquire a new customer is into the stratosphere. So if you can win back a loyal customer, that's great. Average open rate for these, 3%, 8%. Again, not bad considering they haven't been engaged at all. The one that does really well that I actually don't think people do enough, the third one, is the feedback or verification style email, right? Okay, so now these people haven't been open and clicking, they haven't been doing anything, world's coming to an end, should we get them off our database, should we throw them away, what are we gonna do? So the one that does, first of all, on the right, you have Uber, right? Uber is saying, hey, you haven't taken a ride with us since signing up. So we're checking in to get your feedback. We love giving feedback. We love getting our rocks off. We love being like, you know what? Your service is terrible, and here's why, right? We love saying that. We love doing that. We just want to share that information and tell you why we're not interacting with you, okay? So that's a no-brainer. But the one that does even better on the B2B side is the verification. It's the verification. When you're talking about verification, we all get nervous, right? Like you're on these different databases. It doesn't have to be an association. You could be a company. You could be anything. And you get emails say, hey, we want to verify your stats. These do phenomenally well. Open rates 7 to 9%. And of course, you have to mention this stuff in the subject line. When we talk about verification, you're not just verifying like your membership stats. You'd be verifying anything, right? So are you still with Outcome Media, right? If I see that in the subject line from a company I have engaged with, I'm like, yeah, I am. I got, what are you talking about? And you're going to open that up. You're like, why are you asking? Is your team still using HubSpot? Whoa. Cool. Yes, we are, right? Verify your active status, ... This verification is a phenomenal way to get that engagement and get it going again. And then when they open up, great, we're glad to hear that you're still doing whatever. Click here to get a discount or a webinar or check out our latest video or some other piece of garbage. Okay, this is a great way. Now, Magnolia, everybody loves Chip and Joanna Gaines. Who doesn't love them, right? They'll do the feedback plus incentive. We love your feedback, and hey, if you give it to us, we're going to give you 20% off your next purchase. This is a home run. This is stage 4, stage 3.5 of the win back. Easy cheesy. I stopped saying that. This is the third session I've done where I've said easy cheesy. What the hell does that mean? I'm sorry. Anyway, I'm never saying that again. But what's good about this one is because the incentives in the message, it'll actually increase your click rate significantly. Your click rate can go up almost by a full 1%, which is amazing for non-engaged people. So another great test for the win back. All right, desperation. They're not coming back to anything. They don't care about you, whatever. You're like, okay, now we're going to do the goodbye dance. Okay. On the left, you have, is it time to say goodbye? And on the right, we really don't want to say goodbye. And then it has the button to keep me in the know. Now, this one is playing on the fear of the individual. Like, do they really want to get off the list? And it has a good open rate, right? Because we get nervous. But this is a little sketchy only because the way that these are written, they're actually not taking you off the list. They're saying, is it time to say goodbye? Right? They're not saying we're saying goodbye, right? And then it says, we don't want to say goodbye. They're not saying they're actually saying goodbye. Now, I'm not telling you to do this because it's a little much. It's a little much. But a lot of marketers are fearful of taking people off their list. So they go with the desperation move to kind of play on that fear. And then the last one, which HubSpot actually does, right? They do the real goodbye. They do the peace out. If you don't resubscribe now, you are off the list. And they really do take you off the list. And what is the benefit of all that? Number one, get your engagement up. More people come back on. And the truth be told, if somebody hasn't opened or clicked in 2 years, okay, and you've tried all your re-engagement stuff, they are a boat anchor, okay? They are a boat anchor. You can still do stuff with their data, but in terms of just emailing them and sending to them with the same frequency and the same plan and the same everything that you do your other data, all you're doing is holding back the performance from the other data in your database. So anyway, off that soapbox. Let's get on to other things. All right, Elvis. Elvis is not alive. I hate to break this news to you. He is not alive. It is a myth, unfortunately. And by the way, that does not even, that is the worst picture of Elvis I've ever seen. Why are you sending a picture of ugly Elvis? You're sending a picture of ugly Elvis because he is indicative of email marketing. And we're going to bust a couple of myths right now because it drives me, literally, it drives me crazy, right? So I'm hopeful that everybody here knows this, but maybe a lot of you don't because the world is filled with information that's just not real, right? So if you are going to write your subject line, you're going to write the headline copy of your email, And you're like, oh, I want to make sure I don't get filtered. I don't go in the junk folder. I don't want to go in the junk folder. That would be terrible. I want to avoid spammy words. So I'm going to go ahead and Google what are spammy words, and you will find thousands, not even hundreds, thousands of articles that give you laundry lists of words that if you put in your subject line, if you put in your headline, that it's going to increase the likelihood of you going to the junk and spam folder. And they have no shame in what they're writing. And these aren't like old articles. These are all about 2022. This is now. I'm talking about now. This is garbage. This is not true. The people and companies and experts that are writing these articles are lying. They're just straight up lying. Now maybe they don't know they're lying, but they're certainly lazy. And they're spreading misinformation that is hurting your ability to get performance on the campaigns that you're sending out. Here's the story. Yes, 15 years ago, if you had an AOL account, an Earthlink account, a Lycos account, an AltaVista account, an Excite.com account, you have all those email addresses, right? And someone sent you an email and it said, mortgage rate is awesome. And it said, free this. And it had dollar signs and it had exclamation points in the subject line or in the headline copy. Yes, 15 years ago, you would get filtered. Your emails would get filtered because the receiving email networks were like looking for any way to cut down on the amount of spam that was coming in. And these words were it. They knew spammers said these words, so they filtered it all out, threw it in the junk folder, spam folder. That's not what happens now. You don't do what you were doing 15 years ago. Hopefully you got some new clothes. You're not wearing that same shirt that you wore when you were in college. You updated it a little bit. We've moved on. Okay, we've all moved on, right? And so email has moved on. The reason you go in the inbox when you send out an email is because of the engagement, right? There's two reasons. One, engagement. Are people opening and clicking on your emails that you are sending them in mass, in aggregate? And if the answer is yes, great. You're going to stay in the inbox more often. The other thing is authentication. I'm not going to go down that crazy road right now, but are you what's called DKIM authenticated? And do you have SPF records and all these things? It is a technical thing. You do not get filtered because of the words and the content that you are putting in your subject line or in your body copy. You do not get filtered because of the words and the content you're putting in your subject line and your body copy. That is old news. Okay, so if you've been holding yourself back because of this, it's time to move on. And it's time to move on. So what are you staring at on this slide? I want to show you the things that are most commonly said that people avoid are the things that are driving up performance. So the word free, no brainer, best word in the human language, right? Free in the subject line will lift your open rates 24 to 31%. Using brackets. Brackets are so easy, so awesome. You have an offer, right? You have something you want people to download, right? Download, put it in brackets, have it be the first word of your subject line. Boom, right? You have 30% off. Put it in brackets or parentheses. First thing in your subject line, lifts open rates 14 to 18%. Exclamation point. I mean, is there anything easier? All you're doing is holding down the shift key and pressing the number 1, and you're getting a higher open rate. I mean, come on, right? How hard is this? Numbers in your subject line. Anything that stands out, numbers stand out. When you use a number in your subject line, have it be the first character of your subject line. All good things in your subject line happen in the beginning. Do not have anything relevant in the second half of your subject line, right? Like an emoji. Emojis are great. 94% of all receiving email networks can view emojis just fine. They work incredibly well. They do not cause you to go to the junk folder. They do not cause you to get filtered. If you're going to use an emoji, I'm a big emoji fan for both business and consumer, stick it at the first character, not the last. I don't understand. People write, blah, 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 and then they stick a big thing, a siren at the end of the thing. Nobody sees it at the end. Nobody cares. You want to stand out. And yes, capitalization in the subject line is a no-brainer. First word capitalization is what you're looking for. It's all about what happens in that first few characters, okay? This is all lifts open rates. So another myth, okay? Another myth. Never eat before you swim, okay? Not only do I not pay attention, I eat while I swim, okay? I'm in Florida. I sit on a float. I try to sit on a float. I fall off a float most often. And I will have a thing of nachos while I'm in the pool. So I do not subscribe to this. And if you Google this, this is not true. This is absolutely garbage. You can swim, eat, and swim and frolic. And this summer, when after you've sat at a pool and you ate something and you're about to jump in the water and somebody says to you, no, you can't do that. You just ate. I want you to say, I was at a user group, a HubSpot user group session with this guy, Jay. And he was talking about email and he said, it's fine, right? He said it's fine. So now you have a source that you could go to. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. Another myth. Unsubscribes are not bad. What? Unsubscribes are not bad. And by the way, Ozark comes back Friday. Are we fired up or what? I'm fired up. Ruth Langmore is cool. Anyway, unsubscribes come back. Unsubscribe. I'm all screwed up. Unsubscribes are not bad. Why am I saying that? Spam complaints are bad. Unsubscribes are sort of good. Okay, spam complaints are bad. Let me explain to you what I mean. When you see one of these in your Gmail, right? Unsubscribe from Cadfax, and someone clicks unsubscribe. That's not bad for Cadfax. I don't know why I have this because I don't own a cat. I don't even know anything about cats. But putting that aside, if someone clicks unsubscribe, it's not bad. Okay. If you send out an email and someone clicks on the unsubscribe link and now you get the unsubscribe, that's not bad. If someone hits reply and says unsubscribe, that's not bad. Let me explain why. Okay. If someone clicks, this is spam button, that's bad. That could hurt your deliverability. Put all those aside. People clicking, this is spam. The majority of people unsubscribe. What is an unsubscribe? They get your email. They open your email. Oh, you got engagement. They click on a link in your email. Okay, that's called engagement. And they are somebody who doesn't want your stuff anymore, not interested, never going to open your stuff, was not going to be a future customer. So they are removing them from your own database. They're no longer a boat anchor, and they generated engagement for you at that email client level. Okay, people unsubscribe because of a few reasons. Number one, they unsubscribe because something changed. They got a new job. Bye, I don't do that anymore. They unsubscribe because a life event happened. You know, they had kids, they graduated college, they're changing this, that, whatever, okay? They unsubscribe because of that, right? They unsubscribe because they're having a bad day. I bet you're like me. When I go to unsubscribe, I don't unsubscribe from one email. I'll unsubscribe from like 5 different emails at one time because I'm like, I can't take it. My inbox is flooded. Get me off these lists. Unsubscribe, right? You're going through a purge, right? It's being on a diet. You're on an email diet. I got to get off stuff. You're not super angry at that one sender, right? Now, the other reason people unsubscribe is because you did something good, right? So you're going to do a subject line test. You're going to do a subject line test. So like this crazy guy, Jay, he spoke really fast. He was totally out of control. And he said to test putting 3 in the subject line or using emojis in the subject line. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and do this test, right? You're going to put an emoji in the subject line. You're going to run A/B test. One subject line has a smiley face and the other subject line doesn't. You send it out. Great. You get an increased open rate. 21% business, 27% consumer. Great. You got more people opening on the one that had the emojis. Uh-oh. You know what else happened on the one that had the emojis? Your unsubscribe rate went up. More people unsubscribe. Now, did they unsubscribe because you're like, hey, wait a minute. I don't like smiley faces. Get me off this list. No, nobody does that, right? They unsubscribe because for the first time in forever, you stood out. You're like, they're scrolling down. They're like, what's this email? And they see your smiley face. And they're like, I didn't even know I was still on this list. Oh, I don't even do that anymore. I got to get off this list. And they go in, they open up and they unsubscribe. So they're unsubscribing because not because you did something bad, but because you did something good, because finally you weren't wallpaper anymore. And we're not talking about your unsubscribe going up to 6% or 2%. It's a 5% increase on top of your 1% unsubscribe that you may already have, probably less than 1 subscribe average. So you're talking about nothing. You're talking about meaningless numbers, and it's a positive. It's engagement. It doesn't hurt your deliverability. So when people say, you send out a campaign, right? And then you try something new, and then you get a nasty gram. I hate you. You're the worst person in the world. You should go to spam jail. This is illegal. You're horrible. Stop spamming me. Unsubscribe. You know what you do with that? Instead of calling a meeting, freezing all your email marketing, losing your mind, be like, cool, that guy wasn't going to buy from us, so let's get him off the list. And it was an unsubscribe. Who cares? All right. Now, do you want a zillion unsubscribes? Do you want to grow into the stratosphere? No. Obviously, that would be bad. Small list, people complaining, not fun. But I'm trying to explain that, listen, it's people conflate the two. They conflate unsubscribes and spam complaints. They're so different. They're not the same thing. Oh my God, I'm all over the place. Let's talk about from address for a little bit. My Ember mug, my commercial for my Ember mug. This is a mug. I don't know why I'm telling you this. It has a little light and it stays hot, right? It has an app. You could choose what temperature you keep your coffee at all day, ember.com. I do not work for these people. It is my most important possession I own besides for my children. I don't own my children. I don't know what that is. This thing's awesome. Anyway, back to the session. From address. Okay. You're gonna be like, I know this already. I don't care, but that's too bad. And I don't believe that you know it to this degree, because to me, this is the most important thing in email marketing going on the last year. Okay. You send out an email. My email address is my horribly long last name, Schwedelson at corpwd.com. That's my email address. When I send you an email, what it shows up, the friendly from or the alias on my email address is J Schwedelson. So it looks all nice and pretty when I email you. You don't see my actual email address. You see my name. Okay, cool. You know that routine. Everybody knows that routine. This next stat is everything to me, though. It's everything to me. And it's so simple. Everything that we talked about today so far, and we'll talk about, costs you nothing. Takes about 10 seconds to implement. There's not an email sending platform on earth that can't do this. And things you could try right now. And this is one of them. So when you're friendly from address, right? When the friendly from addresses that match topic of subject line offer have increased open rate, 34 to 37%. What does that mean in English? That is the most poorly written stat of all time. What it means in English is the following, right? When Gap sends out their email, okay? Gap sends out an email and their offer is back to school. Their subject line is all about back to school, back to school, back to school. They could easily have had their from address say GAP, because it just said Gap. That's it, Gap. But they didn't. They changed the friendly from depending on what the offer is that they're promoting. They changed it to Gap, back to school. Instantly, I know, okay, that I'm interested in that. I'm now going to read the subject line. You're establishing relevance immediately by using the friendly from and tying it to the offer that you're promoting. So when Salesforce sends out their email, it says Salesforce events, they're promoting an event. It could easily just say Salesforce, right? When the American Academy of Dermatology talks about their COVID, whatever, it could have just come from the AAD. When Microsoft's Azure team, they could just have it come from Microsoft, but no, they're trying to tell you this is about Azure. This is a webinar about Azure, okay? When you use the friendly from address and tie it to your offer, constantly changing it, you establish relevance immediately, and you can increase your sending volume dramatically. I'm going to explain to you what the hell that is. So example, Salesforce, right? Salesforce sends, depending on their offer, Salesforce marketing, Pardot, events, whatever, and they tie it to their offer that they're promoting. It establishes relevance immediately. Wayfair. Love Wayfair. That's my couch is from Wayfair. Wayfair's emails are totally bananas, right? Totally bananas. And I know that you guys are in High Point. Some of you are in High Point, North Carolina. I learned today that this is the home furnishing capital of the planet, which is very exciting information. I'm going to buy a chair from there as soon as this session is over. Wayfair's emails, you need to sign up for them if you're not on them. They go next level. And it's not on every email they send out, but on a lot of their emails, they'll tie it not just to the offer, but it'll be like 72 hours left, shop now, whatever. Walmart, Walmart fashion, Walmart home, Walmart clearance, all right? The American Academy of Dermatology. My wife's a dermatologist. I'm not kidding. And so I get all these dermatology emails, and she constantly trying to get me to Botox. I'm doing this because she will angry at me because I have lines in my forehead. Be like, you are a billboard for what I do and you look ridiculous. I'm like, okay, I'll work on it. Anyway, look, every friendly from is saying what it's about. And look at Apple. I love Apple, right? This is, what's today's date? This is from 3 days ago, to give you an example. Okay. The reason I love Apple, I don't love Apple. I mean, I dig Apple. I got my phone, cares, whatever. But I like looking at their marketing. They seem to know what they're doing. Things are going okay for their company. So on April 24th, 3 days ago, and this is very common for my inbox from them, I have one email address with them. I got an email from Apple TV, Apple Music, Apple News, Apple's App Store. So the other benefit of this, besides just tying it to the offer, is it allows you to send out more because you don't get annoyed. So when I get that next email, I get the first email from Apple TV, and the next email comes in a few minutes later from Apple Music. I'm not saying that, wait a minute, Apple just sent me an email about Apple TV. That's not cool, okay? I'm annoyed. No, because you view it as something totally separate. And you're saying to yourself, well, I'm not Apple. But you are a mini version of Apple. You have lots of different things going on. You might have a webinar, you might have an industry report, you might have a sale, you might have a best dress list or new fashion tips, or I don't know what. But you always have multiple types of content, multiple types of offers, and you want to delineate them. So this stat is wild. Sending, and stick with me on this, sending 3 emails per week, 3 emails per week from 3 friendly from addresses, 3 different friendly from addresses, versus sending 3 emails per week from 1 friendly from address. When you use 3 different friendly from addresses, your open rates go up 34 to 41%. Come on. That's like drop the pen type stuff. That's awesome. That's so easy to do. It's all about testing. Now, everything that we talk about today is about testing. If I give out 15 ideas today, I promise you, if you test all of them, the majority will fail. That's right. That's the type of thing I stand by. You will fail trying these ideas. Why? Because that is the world that we live in. This is what is called to do marketing, right? We test everything and you're like, well, why did you say it was going to work and then it's going to fail? Because you know what? There's 4,000 variables. Who is your brand? Okay, how well is your brand know? How clean is your database? What day are you sending? What time are you sending? What's your frequency? You know, how good is your product? I don't know. You have a lot going on. What I can tell you is this is what's working for a lot of people, so it might work for you, and it's worth a test. And the game is you can't keep going back to the well, right? You can't say, oh, I did this one thing, I put an emoji, so now every email is going to have an emoji. No, you want to build up an arsenal. You got to have like 20 things in your arsenal that you're rotating and testing and doing. And when you start to see one dropping off, you're like, uh-oh, there's got to be new games in town. There got to be new things I got to try. It's like on demand, right? If you look at webinars versus on demand, 2 years ago, webinars were killing it for an offer and on demand was terrible. Totally flip-flopped. On demand as an offer now is killing it and webinars are doing terrible. That's the way it goes. Things change. Anyway, why do people open up emails? Why do people open up emails? I love talking about suspense in emails. To me, these 3 dots are the biggest no-brainer. You text with somebody, you see these 3 dots, and you're talking about, you know, okay, where are we going to go to dinner Friday? And the person's like, all of a sudden you see the 3 dots, right? And you're like, oh, I wonder what they're going to say. Are they going to say we're going to go to the new Mexican place? Oh, I hope so. I love that place. The place is awesome. And then the dots disappear. And you're like, oh no, maybe they're not going to talk about the Mexican place. Maybe they're going to talk about some other horrible place. And then they come back, you're like, oh, I can't wait. It's so exciting, right? The 3 dots are very exciting. The 3 dots in email are home run. It's the easiest thing to get your open rates up. This has been working so well. So when you get an email and the subject line says, the keynote speaker is ... Have you seen ... The winner is ... I love ... Amazon, you look at a lot of their emails, their offer related emails, it's not because the subject line is longer. It's because they know the ... works. You'll see grandma's chocolate chip cookies. You're like, I gotta know. Now, with all this stuff in the subject line, it's not that you're going to sit there and be like, oh, look, they got the 3 dots. I'm opening that email because that's awesome. No, nobody does that. You see the 3 dots, it catches your attention. It's a millisecond. You're like, boom, I'm going to open it up because subconsciously we're like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to try that out. And it works. Litmus, love Litmus, right? We all love Litmus. A lot of their emails, ... At the end, why? You think Litmus doesn't know what they're doing? They know what they're doing. They know it works. They know it's going to get you to open up their emails, right? The famous dot, dot, dot. And I don't, a lot of marketers be, well, some of you from Charlotte, I know big banking in Charlotte, right? And banking, financial services, very conservative organizations, and we have compliance, and we have legal, and that'll never get through, and blah, blah, blah. We can never use an emoji and do this, blah, blah. Let me tell you, personally, first of all, my company, I work with mega brands, some of the most conservative on the planet. And there is always a way to push further, to try versions of these things. Think about an emoji. If an emoji was called a business icon, would you have an easier time getting that sold internally if you wanted to test it out? Yeah, you would. It's pathetic, right? It's pathetic. But pushing the envelope and trying to get the approval to do these things, it will work, right? So when SHRM, Society of Human Resource Management, yeah, they could try the 3 dots. It's okay. And it lifts your open rates 28 to 31%. You didn't do anything. You added 3 dots. Not that hard. Obviously, you got to write a suspenseful thing. So, quick tip. The word tip. See, I got you there. I said quick tip, and it's about the word tip. This word has been trending the last 3 months, right? When you go back to subject line, your inbox, you'll see this. The actual word tip. Why is tip doing so well, right? The 20 tips from working from home, 7 tips for a better mobile website, 4 tips to transition from toddler to big kid room. Why do tips do so well, and why does it lift open rates 19 to 21%? Because it's fast. We have time for nothing, right? We have time for nothing. Tips equals quick information, right? Tips is a great word to test. It's doing really well in the last 90 days. Super easy to kind of throw in there. All right, so before we open up for questions, let me tell you about some stuff. Do not disappear on me. I want to tell you about some free stuff. See if you're interested in any of it, and then we'll definitely do questions if there are any. First off, I have an email calendar. My company has an email calendar. The best and worst days to send out email. We link all of our data. We have a business calendar and a consumer calendar. Green days are days that our data says should do really well. Red days are days you may want to avoid, not just holidays, but all sorts of different craziness that we find. If you'd like a copy of this calendar, it's totally free. You'll be able to email me and say, yeah, I'd like that calendar. I have a newsletter I send out about every 2 weeks. It's called Scoop. It's a version of my craziness with lots of stats and information. I don't promote stuff. It's not, with all these ads all over the place. It's literally just a bunch of stats and information. If you want that, you could tell me that you want to be a part of Scoop. I'll throw out my email address at the end of this thing. Another thing, Guru Conference. We started a new company, my team did, called Guru Events, and we are putting on large-scale, virtual, free marketing conferences. Our first conference is this November 2nd and 3rd. Guru Conference is a 2-day email marketing only event. We're going to have 35 speakers. We're expecting 10,000 registrants. We're well on our way to that number. Again, it's 100% free. It's 100% virtual, but we are going to run out of spots much more quickly than we anticipated. I will be there. Other awesome people from Inbound will be there. If you want to register this thing, you can go to guruconference.com. Okay, so I want to make it easier on you. If you're crazy enough and you want this, you could just send me an email and say, send me everything. I'll sign you up for Guru. You'll get a confirmation. I'll send you the slides from today. I'll send you the calendar, and I'll sign you up for Scoop. Just send me an email to that address on the screen, say jays@corpwd. Just say, email me, send me everything. Also, I want to connect with you on LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Please hit me up on LinkedIn with a LinkedIn request. I almost forgot to plug my crew at Subject Line will kill me if I don't. Subjectline.com is one of our divisions, free website. You can go there, check your subject line. We just passed our 13 millionth subject line check, so check that out. All right, we did it. We did it. So now I'm going to stop sharing and see if there are any questions. And that was definitely a lot. Okay. Hello. I'm going to put my thing up in the chat. Oh. Is everyone falling asleep?
Thank you so much, Jay. It looks like we do have a couple questions. You should be able to see those as well.
Let's see what's going on. Are we in the Q&A? Yes, we're in the Q&A.
Yes.
Okay. Hold on. Let me see.
Or I'm happy to.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'll buzz right in there. All right. Let's see. The first question from Erica. For Friendly From, Do you recommend you have multiple email addresses too, or just change the name it's from? So that's a really great question. So you do need to be careful with actually changing the actual email address. Because if you change the actual email address when you are changing, with a friendly from, then you could impact your deliverability, you can impact engagement, whatnot, and you don't want to do it on every email. It's not like every single email you want to change the friendly from, but every third, every fourth email, whatever it may be, and you have an important offer, utilize that tactic to give you that boost. But try not to change your actual address, because that's where things go a little bit sideways. Really good clarification question. Okay. Is it more beneficial to utilize these different tactics individually or combine them, or some of them at least, or to create the ultimate email subject line? Yeah, if you take every word, that's actually a funny slide. If you take every word I ever say we'll give you an open rate lift, put in one subject line, it'll be like a big vomit, right? It'll either get you 1,000% open rate or it will do horribly bad. No, it'll do horribly bad. So unfortunately, you really do need to do these all as singular tests and keep all the other variables static, because if you test two things at once, you're basically testing nothing, unfortunately. So every email you send in your mind should be like, this is an opportunity to test. You should never have an email that goes out that you're not testing something, because frankly, it's a waste, right? There's always so much to test. So good question. All right. How is iOS impacting emails, and how can we get ahead of it? Well, it's a disaster, right? Total disaster. iOS 15, I'm not going to explain why it's a total disaster, but basically, here's the good news, bad news. We are at a saturation point with the impact of iOS 15, what Apple did with their basically automatic sending of opens, regardless of the person, whether they're opening it or not. What I mean we've hit a saturation point is everyone who's going to download iOS 15 and update to iOS 15 has basically done it. We're seeing it in all the data. So your open rates now are inflated anywhere from 25 to 40%, okay? You want to make sure you establish your new benchmarks. What is your average open rate now? Knowing that a certain percentage of those opens are not real, okay? But what can we do about that? It obviously messes up your marketing automation streams in a big way, but you should still be tracking open all the way through. You should still be tracking open rates, because once you establish what your average open rates are for the different types of emails you send out, what's your open rate for a newsletter, what's your open rate for an offer email, what's your open rate for your autoresponder emails, whatever it is, your benchmarks, that is your new, okay, can I beat that on the next email I send out? Unfortunately, you can't do a very accurate thing where you send people who did or did not open. It's kind of a mess that way. One interesting weird fact about the iOS 15 thing is the automatic opens that Apple's sending back almost across the board are being sent back at night, because what Apple is doing is they're waiting for the phones to be plugged in and to be on Wi-Fi so they don't eat up your data. So some marketers are trying to play around with looking at timing related to opens versus later in the day, but that's a session for another day. Good question. Do unsubscribes follow any type of annual trends or trends in general? Unsubscribes are interesting because it really has to do more with your cleaning of your database, meaning what are your practices, right? So if you, for example, have an aggressive strategy and you boot people off that haven't engaged after 12 months versus somebody who never removes somebody, okay, the person who never removes somebody is going to have much higher unsubscribe rates than you. So there's a lot of variables at a company level that will really impact that. It's not an across the board. There are certain metrics that you shouldn't be more than, if you're above 1% on average of unsubscribes every time you send out an email, that's pretty horrendous. Stuff like that. Some other questions. Some clients of ours are still firm believers that email content gets scanned and marked as spam from using words like free. How do we help them understand that this is not the case? I feel that there's always going to be people that believe that, right? And here's why they're always going to believe that. This is an absolute fact. You can tell them this. Here's the bad news. On average, all of our email, I don't care who you are, business and consumer, I don't care how awesome of a marketer you are, our average inboxing rate across the board is 80%. 80% for all of us. Some are at 70, some are at 82%. Why am I telling you that? 20% of all of our email that we're sending out will go to the junk folder. And the problem with that is that when you have a client, let's say you're an agency and you send out a thing, you put free in the subject line and it goes to their junk folder. They're like, aha, you were wrong. It went to my junk folder. I got you. You're a doofus, right? And there's very little that you could do to combat the fact that in their inbox, because their network administrator has a funky setting, they're using Barracuda software, they are just not opening up the emails, who knows what, you went to the junk folder and they're going to use that against you. But it's all about arming yourself with, with statistics and information. And don't just believe what I say. You can go and Google and things and say, and I can send you 100 other articles that say what I just said, that it's a myth. Even on Litmus's blog, there are posts that say it's a myth. So it's a battle you probably won't win, but unfortunately, we need you to win. Okay. What do you think of famous influencers' names and email subject lines and content? Well, on one hand, anything to do to get the email opened, right? On the other hand, you don't want to be misleading. The influencer thing is a weird category. We actually do influencer marketing. We on behalf of our clients, we hire influencers, both business influencers and consumer influencers, and we hire them to do paid posts for our clients' offers and whatnot. So the influencer space is really weird. And so you got to be a little bit careful about just plugging in anybody's name, because there are some issues about using people's names and likeness without them approving it. So I'd walk a fine line there. And if it doesn't tie in with your offer and your brand, yeah, you'll get the open, but it's going to be like zero to do with your offer. So that's an interesting question. Does your B2B data include marketing to education, K-12, private, and public schools? So yeah, it does. But here's what I would say. There are some outliers in the B2B world, which is why I said not everything's going to work for everybody. The problem is in the B2B world, B2B also normally includes public sector. Public sector being, state and local government, federal government, higher ed, K-12, and sometimes healthcare, right? And that sector in particular is public sector is an interesting beast, because oftentimes you are emailing, this may be for other markets that you guys are in, you are emailing to high volume number of contacts at smaller numbers of locations, right? So you might be emailing 500 people at one location or 100 people at one location, like a school or whatnot. That's a deliverability nightmare. But what I'm talking about here doesn't negatively impact that at all, but just realize that it is a different animal. So your metrics might be better for some of these things, it might be worse, but certainly nothing here doesn't apply. Cool. So, Erica, we talked about iOS 15. I feel like we kind of touched on that a little bit. So, what are your thoughts on clickbait titles? Clickbait's terrible. Clickbait is total garbage. And, sometimes I'll do these sessions and be like, oh, that's clickbait. I'm like, no, that's not clickbait. Clickbait is something that really is ridiculous and has nothing to do with what's inside the email. So if it's true clickbait, all you're going to do is accomplish nothing, right? You're going to accomplish nothing. I'll give you an example of clickbait that I can't get behind. A lot of marketers now use the FW : the fake forward or the fake reply in their subject line. Major marketers. I mean, Ad Age does this, which blows my mind, right? To me, that's total clickbait. That's total garbage. I didn't reply to your email. You didn't forward me this email. It's terrible. And it works really, really well. But I think it's a horrible practice, and I would avoid it. Colleen, how do you combat those who say email marketing is dead? I love this question. My older boss and I argue about this every week. All right, the first thing I would say, if somebody says to you, email is dead, I say, okay, cool. If email is dead, let's never send to our list again. I mean, why would you send to your list if it was dead, right? And then the person says, well, I didn't mean that. Obviously, we're going to send to our list, but it's dying. It's actually the opposite of dying. I don't know if it's just because of COVID, but coming out of COVID, email revenue from email is at the highest point it's ever been. Unfortunately, the volume of email going out is at the highest point it's ever been. Open rates and click rates are at the highest points they've ever been. It doesn't get the attention that it deserves. Look, there are 4.5 billion email users on the planet. How many people use TikTok? 1 billion. How many people use Instagram? Like 1.5 billion, right? They get all the exciting whatever. We got 4.5 billion users. It's a growing channel and it rocks. And there are other ridiculous stats about your ROI for every dollar spent on email. I don't believe that number. There's one floating around that says for every dollar you spend, you make $40 in ROI. I think that's a garbage stat. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's also about 15 years old. And I don't think that you make that much money off of a dollar spent. But if you want to pull that stat up and use that and keep it in your back pocket, you can do that too, but it's total horse crap. Anyway, that's it. We solved the world's problems, or some of them at least.
Yes, we did indeed. Thank you so much, Jay. And Emily just dropped his email address in the chat. So if you want to send out that send me everything, and I've already been on the Guru marketing page about to register. So thank you so much for all the info. Thank you guys for being here with us this morning. Please keep in touch with the hug groups through LinkedIn, etc. We have some different groups there where we can continue the conversation, and hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.